three.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Idiomatic Top 3. I'm sitting with...
Eric. I'm a teacher, sometime writer.
And I am Dimitri, Editor-in-Chief of Idiomatic and Movie Critic. And today, Eric, what are we talking about?
Well, we're talking about books that were adapted into film. We all did it as students, right? We were assigned a book and we go, oh, there's a movie of it. I'm going to go watch the movie instead of reading the book. Then you go back to class and they're all talking about this amazing scene and you're like, wait, that was in the movie? And it's not. That's usually the way I feel about some of the adaptation because obviously you can't have an entire book in a film. You need to cut stuff out.
Yeah.
So you try to keep the spirit, if you will, the soul of the piece.
I find also sometimes things cannot be translated into film.
No, they can't.
And the filmmakers sort of have to find different ways to communicate the same idea, but it doesn't betray the story or the spirit, but it has to betray the plot, if you will.
Yeah.
And I think, like, for example, a recent example is in The Hunger Games. If you read the actual book by Collins, it's very much about Katniss not being able to trust Peeta and going like, is he playing me? Does he really like me? What's going on? Yeah. And she's a very silent character. So in the movie, to keep her character silent, you couldn't get into her head. So you couldn't have that sort of inner monologue going like, what's going on with this Peeta guy? Does he like me or is he just playing me? You don't have access to her thoughts.
Yeah, and they don't really do a voiceover either.
No, which would have been clumsy. I think I approved them now doing that. What I find that they did is clever, though, is that they sort of switch it on its head where they expect you to sort of feel that way from Peeta's point of view. Peeta's a much more expressive character, so he gets to emote and he gets to show on screen his doubt. And so what they did is they switched it around and made Peeta go like, what's the deal with this Katniss girl? She like me or not? She playing me?
Yeah.
And I thought that was really clever to sort of keep that idea of paranoia, but just switch it to the character where it's more accessible to do it on film.
Well, and also just the fact that in the book it's a lot of inner monologue, and you get the sense as she's going through the forest, she's asking questions and so on. Well, what they do is, oh, here we are, we're seeing the evil, blah, 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 and they're kind of explaining it.
Yes.
As if it's TV, like being Big Brother or something like that. And it works. Okay, let's jump into it. So books that we love that were made into films.
Yes, we are listing our top 3 books that have been made into movies, and we've both tried to avoid classics, haven't we?
Yeah.
Alright then, so why don't you get us started, Eric, with your number 3 pick for best book adapted into a movie?
John Carter, Princess of Mars. Now, imagine this, okay? I was a teenager that didn't like reading. I loved movies instead. And my cousin gave me that book. I started reading it. I found it great. The adventures, everything. I was so into it. For a very long time, I was really impressed with Edgar Rice Burroughs. I actually had a picture of him on my wall.
Oh, really?
Yeah, to inspire me. Funny enough, he had a bald head. I don't know if that influenced my hair loss, but I don't know. It did influence me a lot. And I was really excited when John Carter came out. And I was like one of the few people that actually enjoyed the film. Because I thought it was a good adaptation. Like, it was pretty solid. They played around with a couple of things, but I thought it was pretty good. And I didn't really see any adaptation of Edgar Rice Burroughs the way that his fiction is written.
It's sort of bombastic.
Yeah, because they play around with Tarzan and they kind of make a mockery of everything else. But Tarzan, if you read the books, he's pretty cool.
Yeah,
he knows how to survive in the jungle and everything else. And you're like, wow, that's weird, but it still works. I like this. And, he would make his characters travel into a different place. Even Carter, he wanted to go to Mars, but he ends up in Venus and so on. The movie is not great, though. It's
not awful, though, in fairness.
Exactly. That's the one thing, like, I think the movie suffers from bad marketing.
I think it suffers from bad casting. I think the lead does not have the
He
clout.
it's true that he doesn't really. He's okay, but he's not great.
I think he's too well known to come off as an unknown getting this awesome role.
Well, for me, he was an unknown. I had no idea who he was.
He played Gambit in the Wolverine X-Men Origins
Yeah, you
movie,
told
and
me.
he's also in Friday Night Lights. He's sort of this TV heartthrob that is trying to make the jump into movies, and I don't think he has quite the momentum to get there yet. Maybe he will eventually, but not yet. And they gave him like this multi-million-dollar thing to head off, and I think nobody was interested. It was like, oh, that guy? No.
Yeah. It's too bad. Like, the movie did terribly.
And yeah, it's one of the worst flops in movie history.
Yeah, and Disney invested a lot of money in it.
And they're going to do that to Star Wars next. No,
Yeah, exactly. But I did like it. I did think it was really good. That being said, the book was fantastic for me. And every now and again, I'll reread it. You know, I moved on as a reader, but I think Burrell is still an incredibly bold writer. And it's interesting because he would read Pulp Fiction all the time. And he just decided, he's like, okay, these suck. I can actually do better. So why don't I do it? And he started writing. Lo and behold, he was right. And he kind of honed his craft and told pretty big stories. And he just expanded a lot of the stuff. Even like his whole Mars series. Like John Carter, after the third book, he only comes back like the 11th. And then like he decided to expand on it. Sometimes it's his son, and at one point like he just takes a female character and he's like, I'm gonna follow her for a while now. And those are some of the books that he expanded on, and it's interesting because now you get like this big plot, different characters that are moving around. It was really exciting.
No, I agree with you. What I like about them is, and also literature of that pulp literature of that time compared to pulp literature today, is that it's devoid of cynicism.
Yeah.
It's very upbeat, and it moves forward, and it invests you in its plot.
Yeah.
And instead of investing you in pathos. Like when you compare with, Harry Potter, for example, which is supposed to address an even younger audience to a certain degree, and it's just everybody's so tortured by the end of it. I mean, it works. I'm not saying that Harry Potter's aren't necessarily bad books in terms of character development, but it's sort of like that's become the model today, and it's sort of so refreshing when you go back and read these books that just expect you to be sort of excited about adventure instead of trying to find where the pain is,
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny, I was talking to somebody and they're like, yeah, but nothing happens. He runs away from the alien, gets caught by the alien, gets caught by other aliens, then he runs away, he escapes. I'm like, but that's an adventure. Those are the adventure books. They always do that. They always run away and then get caught and everything else. That's the point. But yeah, that's one of my top 3.
I actually went retro a little bit as well, and pulp as well for my third pick.
Yep.
I went with I Am Legend, Richard Matheson. The book has been adapted like 17 times into film. I think The Last Man on Earth, The Omega Man, and then I Am Legend.
It's a theme that everybody knows, right? Like, we've always had that part of, hey, what would happen if we're the last person?
Yeah.
Sometimes we imagine it when we're in a car and it's really noisy outside and you're like, yeah, wouldn't it be nice?
And what I find interesting about that book, that of course, one of the things I find interesting about the book that the movies could never have captured is its play on literature. In a certain degree, first of all, it plays like a pastiche of Robinson Crusoe. And second, it sort of it's sort of a move towards the future, right? Because that's what the book is about. He's the last man on Earth. The vampires are sort of rising, and they're becoming evolved as well. And at the end of the book, without spoiling how, but he sort of comes to terms with that. And at the same time, he's sort of taking the gothic tropes, the vampires, and sort of giving them scientific explanation, as if he's moving horror fiction from the old tradition Gothic into the new era, which is the post-nuclear era that has sort of dominated horror since then. So he's sort of playing with genre as well, in a way that, of course, the movies can't necessarily capture, especially, one that's made in, 2000 whatever, because it's way past that time where you can have that discussion.
Yeah, no, it's true. Now, did you like the movie with Will Smith?
I liked the director's cut of it. I thought the theatrical cut had me going mostly because of Will Smith's charisma, and then lost me at the ending, where I just thought the ending was really sanctimonious and stupid.
Yeah. And
the director's cut with the original ending actually has an ending that's a lot closer, spiritually at least, to what the book had. And that version works for me a lot more.
Okay. That's interesting.
Alright, your number 2 pick, Eric.
Cold Mountain.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Twilight.
Yeah. No, Cold Mountain, if you read this book, it is spectacular. We are talking about, it's basically the Odyssey, but in the South, during the Civil War. And you get this man, Inman, which is kind of a pun that they do in the Odyssey too, when he stabs the Cyclops. And he goes and he basically, it's kind of interesting because he's trying to go home to his Penelope. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't really know what he's going home for. Like, she's this woman that he shared a kiss with, but he's not really sure what he's going back to, but this is a sense of love that he felt, and he just wants to go back home. Universal theme that everybody can relate to. The movie? In this film, I don't know why, like, in the book, there's lots of black characters. In the movie, no, there's not that many. And even Renée Zellweger, that people are like, oh my god, she's so spectacular, she should win an Oscar. I thought she was horrible. Like, the way she's just grumpy. And in the book, she's like half black.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, why? There's tons of black actors that are spectacular. Why didn't you hire one?
Yeah, there was quite a bit of controversy about that.
I know. And I just thought, like, well, why? There's tons of actors that want to work. So it was a weird thing, because the book, when you read it, you're like, it makes perfect sense. And then you see the film, you're like, well, why? Why'd you do that? And just a side note, Renée Zellweger is so annoying in that film. Like, the character in the book is feisty, is strong, and at one point the belle there, she's afraid of this rooster that is right there on the porch. Every time she goes out, the rooster basically attacks her. And this black woman comes, she's like, okay, I'm not going to be your slave, but, we can work together and we could do this. I can help you with the farm. I can help you with this. And as she's talking, she just grabs the rooster and just basically, like, wrings its neck. It's a good symbol. It's like, that's right, we don't need men around here. Like, we're the two women that are going to make it work. And they do, and it's it's a great scene. Then you see the scene in the movie. It just feels half-assed, like a TV adaptation.
Okay, yeah.
And that's the whole thing I felt about that movie, and it was too bad because the material was fantastic. You could really have done something spectacular with that.
I do find that filming the Odyssey, any version of it, or any Odyssey, is problematic because of the Hollywood formula. I mean, that's what happened with Episode 1, in my opinion. Episode 1, if you see it as this very episodic, Odyssey-like movie, it sort of kind of works until it starts taking shortcuts. Like, it works until the Jedis go straight through Naboo into the planet's core to get to destination. And I was listening to the commentary track, and George Lucas was saying, like, well, we're doing an Odyssey, but in cinema, you have to realize that you want to go from point A to point B in a straight line. That's what good storytelling is. And I think that's the problem. Because an Odyssey is anything but the straight line.
Yeah.
It's you take the scenic route to get to point B. That's what makes it an Odyssey.
Yeah, but at the same time, like a good Odyssey, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Yeah, but it takes the scenic route, right?
It does.
Yeah, but it's. I think it's almost able to do it because A, the Coen brothers don't follow Hollywood formula.
No, they don't.
And B, because it has a certain humor about it that allows them to sort of bypass, the dramatic conventions. And I suspect that's what happened with Cold Mountain, is that there probably was studio pressure to sort of follow the dramatic template, where, the source material doesn't really do that.
Maybe it is. It's too bad because, what's his name? Anthony whatever.
Anthony Minghella.
Yeah. Anthony Miguel really misses the mark, and it's too bad because he's actually a smart man. He's a good writer, he's a good director, but just couldn't deliver. And it's too bad because Charles Friesen actually wrote a really brilliant novel. How about you?
Oh,
Number two.
My number two pick is Yannick Martel's Life of Pi, which. Of course, the movie
came out not too long ago.
Yeah, and directed by Ang Lee. Much better choice of director than the original director slated for it, M. Night Shyamalan.
Oh,
that would have been bad. And not because I don't think M. Night Shyamalan is untalented. It's just because the way the book tells its story would have played to his worst instincts.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, he's good at creating mood, but lately, hasn't done anything interesting.
No, really not. Yeah. But the book, Life of Pi, though, it's a weird thing because I don't love the same parts that a lot of people do. Because for those of you who don't know, the story is about this kid who grows up in India, then goes on the boat to immigrate, and then the boat catches fire, so he's stuck surviving on a tiny, tiny little survivor robot boat with a tiger and various animals with him, and surviving the harsh seas with that tiger and these other animals who don't all make it. And a lot of people talk, of course, about the meat of the story, which is that survival part, but that's the part where I actually got bored. My favorite chapters are the first 3 ones, where it's just about this kid who believes in every religion simultaneously, who's incapable of rejecting any system of belief. He tries to be Muslim at the same time as being Hindi, at the same time as being Christian, and at the same time as being Buddhist. And it's hilarious how he sort of tries to negotiate some of the slight contradictions and beliefs, and successfully so at that. I thought that part was so fascinating.
Yeah, and even in the book, his parents don't really know what to do with that. Actually, the part I loved in the book was when he was describing what it's like to grow up in a zoo, animals in a zoo, and how they're very territorial. And I kind of like that. I thought that was really interesting. It gave me a different perspective of what was a zoo.
Right, yeah.
Because you just think, oh, it's jail for the animals, no, not really. Most of them, like, they kind of like it. It's their own little territory. So, yeah, that was the part that, for me, I found interesting in the book.
Yeah, no, and I found that interesting as well. No,
yeah.
Definitely. No, it's because it's a really well-rounded, fascinating character. And I mean, like, even if my interest waned a little bit when we got the tiger stuff, it was just, the same thing going on, it still carried me through because by that point, I had grown very attached to that character.
Yeah, you want to find out what happens next.
Yeah.
No,
and then,
sure.
and then it sucker punches you at the end brilliantly. I love the ending. I it's such a cliche and so trite to say, well, an ending made you think. It's sort of like, hopefully a lot of stuff makes you think, you know what I mean? But it is a thought-provoking ending. It is something that invites you for a wider reflection, the ending, and I like that a lot.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, your number one pick for best book adapted into a movie?
The Quiet American.
Oh, yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Um, it's the recent one. This is a Graham Greene novel, and I'm referring to the movie with Michael Caine and Brendan Fraser. Brendan Fraser. Here's a guy that did George of the Jungle and lots of goofy. In dramatic roles, he's actually excellent. He's a very good actor, and I still don't think that people truly respect like how good he is.
I agree.
And Michael Caine is terrific. I don't always like Michael Caine.
Oh, really?
No, he's not my favorite actor. At the same time, I have a lot of respect for him. He's definitely. He doesn't need me to tell him he's good. But no, I really like that film, and I thought it was just well made.
We're doing best book adapted to movie. So how did you feel about the book, though?
Oh, I liked it. I liked it a lot.
It was good.
It was good. No, I liked it. And Graham Greene, I mean, I'm a fan. I really like Graham Greene. I think he's a great writer, and very pulpy too. So yeah, you always have an interesting turn and interesting plot twist. Sometimes like his endings, you're kind of like, ooh, there has to be a twist here. But still, he's one of my favorites. So, yeah.
My number one pick, like yourself, is a combination of I like both the book and the movie. And that happens to be Amy Tan's The Joy Luck Club.
Oh, yeah. I like that film.
It was the movie adaptation was directed by Wayne Wang, and it features a whole slew of Asian. I think it actually features all the Asian actresses in Hollywood except Lucy Liu, and I'm grateful for that. But it actually is one of the movies I discovered when I was a teenager and fell in love with completely. I think. Yes, part of it is because, the immigrant culture, the Asian immigrant culture I could relate to particularly easily. But it's also, it's about generations. It's about the relationship you have with your parents. And I think everybody can relate to that, especially if you're a teenager.
And especially a lot of it was about relationships. And I know one thing I remember, this one guy that would have everything 50-50.
Right, yes.
Right? And to the point that it becomes ridiculous. But for him, like, this is what I do, 50-50. And for him, that was his version of equality. But it became like so twisted, the way that he would see it. And then she's kind of realizing like, he doesn't love me.
Right.
Like this is... And it wasn't even a question of money. It was just a question of, no, this is not what I want. I actually want passion.
Yeah.
And that, for me, is one scene that sticks out that I still remember of the Joy Luck Club. But yeah, I liked it.
The scene that for me like really resonated is the one where June, played by Ming Na, sort of complains to her mother that like you never notice me, like you're always comparing me with the other girl, and the other girl's always coming out on top. And the mother sort of turns to her and goes like, no, I know who you are. At the table there was lobster, everybody took the best part, and you took the worst part so that everybody else could get the best part. I know who you are. I know what you're worth. That made me bawl my eyes out. It's beautiful. What's interesting is years later, when I finally got the courage to get the book and risk ruining the movie by reading the book is much more cruel. June never gets that moment. You get a sense that the mother understands who she is, but that June doesn't realize that throughout the story. But she never gets that moment of confirmation that her mother really sees her, and there's a lot of small changes like that where you realize Wayne Wang, who adapted the movie, made some of the emotional undercurrent a little bit more uplifting, and whereas Amy Tan's book is much more cruel in how much is lost between generations. It's a very different book. Both are really good, but it's a very different sentiment that's being vehiculated.
No. But that's interesting. So that means that the movie maker decided to do something a bit different.
Yeah.
But see, I like that. I like that because then he's talking about some of the problems that he might have had when he read it, and he's kind of like, oh, okay, I feel like I need an emotional payoff here.
Yeah. I think it makes sense for a movie as well, where you can't leave things too unresolved, because as an audience, I wouldn't have felt connecting, like that uplifting moment makes me have an emotional connection with the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas I don't need that with a book.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a tough thing also, just because sometimes the fanboys are so rigid that, oh, no, you can't possibly say this differently. No, this is the book that I love and cherish and study and bring to bed with me every night, and instead of a girlfriend. But
I was gonna say, and do weird things to it.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I doggy ear my books, but I don't doggy style them.
No, oof.
Hey! Oh! Enjoy the meal, everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, on that cheery note.
Yeah.
If you have any questions you want to share with us, your favorite books adapted into movies, or frankly, your favorite books. Yeah, it doesn't have to be adapted into movies.
Or, besides, if it's your favorite book, it probably will be adapted into a film.
Probably, yeah.
Most likely.
True. Yeah. In fact, it might have, and you don't even know it.
Yeah, exactly.
You can write us at mail@idiomatic.com or post a comment at idiomatic.com, obviously, because that's our site. Until next time.
See ya.
His doubt, and so what they did is they switched it around and made Peter go like, what's the deal with this Katniss girl? She like me or not? She blame me?
Yeah.
And I thought that was really clever to sort of keep that idea of paranoia, but just switch it to the character where it's more accessible to do it on film.
Well, and also just the fact that in the book it's a lot of inner monologue, and you get the sense as she's going through the forest, she's asking questions and so on. Well, what they do is, oh, here we are, we're seeing the evil, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And they're kind of explaining it.
Yes.
As if it's TV, like being Big Brother or something like that. And it works. Okay, let's jump into it. So books that we love that were made into... 1, 2, 3.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Idiomatic Top 3. I'm sitting with
Eric. I'm a teacher, sometime writer.
And I am Dimitri, editor-in-chief of Idiomatic and movie critic. And today, Eric, what are we talking about?
Well, we're talking about books that were adapted into film. We all did it as students, right? We were assigned a book and we go, oh, there's a movie of it. I'm going to go watch the movie instead of reading the book. Then you go back to class and they're all talking about this amazing scene and you're like, wait, that was in the movie?
It's very much about Katniss not being able to trust Peeta and going like, is he playing me? Does he really like me? What's going on? Yeah. And she's a very silent character. So in the movie, to keep her character silent, you couldn't get into her head. So you couldn't have that sort of inner monologue going like, what's going on with this Peeta guy? Does he like me or is he just playing me? You don't have access to her thoughts.
Yeah, and they don't really do a voiceover either.
No, which would have been clumsy. I think I approved them not doing that. What I find that they did is clever, though, is that they sort of switch it on its head where they expect you to sort of feel that way from Peeta's point of view. Peeta's a much more expressive character, so he gets to emote and he gets to show on screen.
And it's not. That's usually the way I feel about some of the adaptation, because obviously you can't have an entire book in a film. You need to cut stuff out.
Yeah.
So you try to keep the spirit, if you will, the soul of the piece.
I find also sometimes things cannot be translated.
No.
Into film.
No, they can't.
And the filmmakers sort of have to find different ways to communicate the same idea, but it doesn't betray the story or the spirit, but it has to betray the plot, if you will.
Yeah.
And I think, like, for example, a recent example is in the Hunger Games. If you read the actual book by Colin...
Films.
Yes, we are listing our top 3 books that have been made into movies, and we've both tried to avoid classics, haven't we?
Yeah.
Alright then, so why don't you get us started, Eric, with your number 3 pick for best book adapted into a movie?
John Carter, Princess of Mars. Now, Imagine this, okay? I was a teenager that didn't like reading. I loved movies instead. And my cousin gave me that book. I started reading it. I found it great. The adventures, everything. I was so into it. For a very long time, I was really impressed with Edgar Rice Burroughs. I actually had a picture of him on my wall.
Oh, really?
Yeah, to inspire